Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Jimmy Allen. Welcome to the Better Humans podcast. I am here on my very first inaugural episode with none other than my wife, Liz Savage Allen.
How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really happy because we're getting this first episode out, and we just finished doing a bunch of trim and caulking, and I had to do a bunch of extra weird cuts, but we were making a lot of really good progress on our mutual office here at the house. Are you happy about that?
Yes, I am. We're not done yet. It's definitely been a project that's, dragged out a little bit, and it'll be great once it's done, but tons of renovations have been the theme of this year so far. Lots of changes, lots of upgrades. I'm very excited to finish the office.
Tell them about the blue.
The blue?
Yeah.
It's very blue.
But it's celestial blue.
It's celestial blue. It's a very dark blue office because it'll be for Jimmy and I to make room for our son to have his own room. We tried to make a plan so that it, fit both of our personalities, didn't just feel like one of our offices, but something that we'd both feel confident in and be able to enjoy the space together.
Yeah.
So a physical compromise.
But I think it's going to be really good because it's this blue that when the light, like if sunlight hits it, it like explodes. It's like really like powerful blue, and then in darker tones, it's just like moody blue.
Yeah, it's a very dark blue color. It's very vibrant and pretty, but if there's not a bunch of direct light on it, it's definitely dark and a little more masculine, although it is very colorful.
Cool. So we're starting a podcast here. What is, I haven't filled you in on a ton of the details here. I've basically given you a name and like a tagline. So this is the Better Humans podcast. It's for people who want to tune in and upgrade their health, wealth, and relationships by listening to other people's stories and kind of getting inspired, but maybe also getting some plans for action in each of those different categories. Like, what does that mean to you? What do you envision this podcast, for me and for us, and how maybe like the first 20, 50, or 100 episodes could go? What do you think about that?
That was such...
Did I pigeonhole you?
You didn't pigeonhole me. You set me in a giant field and said, look at all these things around you. What do you think about it? I think it's more of a broad question.
Oh, okay.
What do I think about it? About all the things. I'm excited. I think it'll be a really interesting outlet for you as a professional and you as a creative, which I know you don't usually describe yourself as a creative, but you definitely have your...
Oh, there's the dog. Of course that was going to happen. Welcome to the rest of our family. This is Odie, the champion, Alan, and he is barking because literally no reason. Come here, lay down, buddy. All right, sorry, you were saying?
I think it'll be a great creative outlet. I think it'll be very interesting for you to get to delve more into stories, which is the heart of marketing, which has been everything you eat, drink, breathe, live for a decade. So I think it'll be great for you to get kind of out of the technical and stretch those creative muscles within marketing, and then leaving people better than you found them is something you have been passionate about for a long time as well. I think it's a very interesting mix with how you described it of, yes, one of your personal missions is leaving people better than you found them, but this podcast is also the flip of that, of like trying to be a better human yourself. And I think those two kind of go hand in hand. When you are trying to leave other people better than you found them, you end up finding yourself better than you started as well. So I'm really excited.
Well, you would hope, right?
You would hope. I'm really excited to see who ends up coming on and what their stories contain, and I think it'd be really fun to watch how it changes you over the course of the next year as well. Like when you hear people's stories, they impact you, like they have an effect on your life, and it'll be really cool to see what changes occur from connecting with that many people.
So some people listening to our podcast might know who I am, and they might not. But I bet you that they definitely don't know who you are. And so in order to kind of break the ice with some of the listeners, what is one of the times in your life that you've just felt completely awkward, didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do, and you just felt like jaw on the floor, tongue tied in a knot, weird?
I'd probably say the first thing that pops in my head is working as a barista at Starbucks in my early 20s.
Okay.
It was a great experience, but if you ever want to see both sides of humanity, work in a coffee shop. Like, even more than retail, there's something about people who want their coffee, but there are multiple experiences, but I can think of one in particular where just somebody would come up to you and just say the most like rude thing in the world, and you're just like, I get paid like $11 an hour to be here. Can you just tell me what you want? Can you just tell me what you want and move on? This isn't a personal attack.
Did you ever get any of those people that are like, I want a double shot cortado, no foam, extra Splenda, half calf?
Yes. So
ristretto.
we had a customer who he wanted a grande cappuccino with 4 shots, extra dry. He wanted the cup to feel like there was nothing in it, and I was the only person who could make his drink.
What? Wait. What is dry?
Dry
cappuccino?
means, so it's also, I went on to work in specialty coffee. So there's Starbucks coffee and how they define drinks. There's specialty coffee and how they define what a latte is, what a cappuccino is. And then there's the general public who just call their drink whatever they want to. But basically a cappuccino is supposed to be more foam than just milk.
Okay.
So yeah, very light and airy foam, not dense frothed milk. And so basically what we'd have to do is put the espresso in his cup and then froth the milk in a way that it was super, super frothy. And then I would have to take a spoon and scoop the lightest, like the top of the canister of milk froth, the lightest into there. And I'd have to do like 2 pitchers worth of milk because I was only taking like the top half of the foam. So it took a while to make his drink.
This is like this guy sounds like the equivalent of like a schnauzer that just gets like babied as a pet. Like, it's got to have its wet food, dry food, half dry, extra carrots, but they have to be the matchstick. Like,
and he was mean too.
Oh, of course.
He was mean. He and his wife
course.
both had very specific orders, but once I made it right, and I was kind about making it right, I didn't make it a big deal. I still like gave good customer service. He was really nice after that. But that was definitely one of the more difficult customers. Or I had somebody come up on the phone and they were in line waiting. And once I greeted them, they just put their credit card in the machine and then walked away. And there were other people in line. And I had to keep asking them questions. Like, what do you want? And he would say coffee. And then walked away on his phone again. And I have a line of people just looking at me. And that was one of those times where I was like, I don't know what to... this is...
Like, is it your first time at Starbucks and you're unsure?
It was just the most bizarre. This has never... No one has ever thought that this is the way that you order coffee before.
Insane. Okay. So that's like weird, uncomfortable. But on the other side, I want to talk about places you've been, or like states, not states like United States, but like states you've been in that just felt really good. Like you're here, you're at peace, you're let's say like happiness in my opinion can be like fleeting, but something that feels a little more like set in your stomach.
I would say the first thing that I think about is there was a day that is still in my mind one of the happiest days of my life. And I knew that it was the day that it happened. And it was when we were living in Puerto Rico. Okay. And Alex and Rachel came to visit us. And we went to Charco Frio. And that day was just... It was one of those, like, you feel in your body.
Okay.
And you're like, this is this is good.
This is like what people write entire books about, like for adventure and stuff like that. Okay.
I guess so, kind
We should
of.
rewind.
And I was going to explain the day.
Okay. Yeah, no, okay, do it.
So in Puerto Rico, we had a group of friends, and we found out about a local swimming hole that isn't super popular. You definitely have to have a guide or know somebody local to get there. And we had friends from here in Georgia out to visit us in Puerto Rico, and we all drove into the jungle together. We paid some guy to park in his yard, and we adventured out to this amazing swimming hole, and it was difficult. Jimmy showed up in flip-flops. We had a super Jimmy's always in flip-flops. We had a super heavy cooler. Like, it ended up being a little treacherous. There was definitely a very steep incline climb of just clay, like wet clay.
I mean, it's like a mud wall in a rainforest.
I have a photo, and it doesn't do it justice. It was crazy. But we trekked out there with all of our friends, and it was just like no one was on their phone. We were all talking about super fun, interesting things. There was only a couple of their local families out there once we finally arrived. And it was beautiful and simple. It was just an amazing time. It just felt like, yeah, this is like the ideal day. I'm having such a good time. There hasn't been, like you go on vacation and there's always like, oh yeah, but there was that one weird lunch or that one weird encounter with a family member or a friend. It was like, there wasn't anything. It was one of those rare days where nothing went wrong, and it was just great.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it really fondly, but I think my favorite part about it was the rope swing. He's either jumping off of the cliff into the watering hole or like doing the rope swing and like flying off of the rope, and just like fun. It's like good adventure that like a lot of people don't get very much anymore.
And I think for me, I have that urge for adventure and risk, but I also have a very loud voice in my head where like I'm the mom of the group. I'm the one who's like, we have to make sure there's nothing in the water. I don't want anybody to break there. I think of all the questions. I think of worst possible outcomes. I'm a prepper. And so it's hard for me to give into those moments of being, what's the word? Spontaneous, I guess. And so I think that was another really fun part for me, was feeling comfortable and confident, going up there and jumping off the cliff and doing the rope swing and not letting fear hold me back. I feel like on different days like that in my past, maybe it'd be like, oh, everybody's jumping off the cliff, but I'm watching the wallets. Or it's like, oh, I'd love to do that, but I'm a little too freaked out to do it. And so that was one of those days where I didn't let that voice win, or that voice wasn't as loud. So I feel like that's another reason that it stands out to me as such a good time.
Yeah.
Because it was like a triumph in a way.
Yeah.
Like a small personal, no one else would know. Like everybody's jumping off of the cliff.
It's like an internal dialogue kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, I want to ask you one last question, and then we're going to move on to a little more of some future-based stuff with us and our life and our marriage and our house and our kids and all that good stuff. But for you, specifically, it's like a twofold question, because I want to know both, but I also know the answer to the latter question, and I just want you to talk about it because I love how passionate you are about it. So part one is, what are you actively binging right now, with a part B of what are you looking forward to?
I think you know what A and B is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm actively binging is the Fourth Wing series by Rebecca Yarros, which is, if you don't know, a romantasy book series that has become super popular in the past couple of years. If you don't know what romantasy is, it is a kind of emerging book genre that is equal parts romance and fantasy. I was a huge reader growing up, especially of fantasy, sci-fi, anything like that. I just tore through those books constantly. And in the past year, I've really rediscovered my love of reading. Like I've heard so many people say, ACOTAR got me back into reading, or Fourth Wing got me back into reading, and that's definitely true for me. But really, Fourth Wing and the second book in the series have become comfort reads, and I will fall asleep re-listening to them. But the part B is that the third book in the series is coming out in tomorrow, 2 days. So super excited for that, and that's why I've been binging and rereading the previous books, because they contain lots of Easter eggs and foreshadowing. So just getting excited for that new book release.
Yeah. She got me into all of that as well, which these are normally things that I would never pick up. So when I was
You're not a
growing up,
romance person, and you're not a book person.
I'm not a book person. So it's really, so I didn't I hope no one can retroactively flunk me from high school, but I never read a book in I never actually read the book. I would skim for information, I would spark notes, I would do this, that, and the other. I think there was 2 books maybe that I read, and I don't remember one of them, but I know one was Malcolm Gladwell's The Outliers. Mm-hmm. So nonfiction, informational, personal development, self-help, those have always been books up my alley. And then Liz was like, put this in your ears. You're listening to this.
As new parents, as a new mom, reading physical books isn't really an option, and so we use Audible a lot. And also as new parents, it's hard to find time to go on dates or do quality time. So Jimmy and I ended up pairing our AirPods so that we could listen to the book at exactly the same time. That way we could still be, doing bedtime routine. Our son has gone through a phase where he really didn't want to be set down when he was first falling asleep. And so we're basically trapped, but it still allowed Jimmy and I to spend quality time, which I feel like is a lot of our personal, our personality and our habits in personal development over the years is the time efficiency. It's if you can't get out for a date, put in your AirPods and use the time that you can stack. Try to stack it where you can.
Yeah. That's actually a really amazing segue into where I wanted to take us, because we're new parents, and when your baby refuses to be set down for his nap, how do you still have quality time together? Those ideas and I guess principles, I wanted to kind of open up the hood a little bit on our marriage and who we are, what we think and believe and stuff like that. So I'm going to start at the very top. We won't get into the nitty gritty or anything, but in terms of core values, things, if you can remember, that we've written on whiteboards about the Allens are blank. Tell me about those and what you believe about them.
Our core principles as parents.
We'll say, let's start as heads of our family, as a married couple, as parents.
Honestly, that reminds me of something that I was wanting to bring up that I thought about. I hadn't thought about in forever. As soon as I sat down, I remembered. Before we were even dating, we were at my sister's house just hanging out. And one of the first things we ever did together was open up journals and journal about what we wanted for our lives, who we were trying to be, our goals, writing out intentions. Okay, I want to foster this in my life. So how do you remember that?
I absolutely do remember that. And the part I remember the most was that your sister had a cat, and man, I must have really wanted to date you and then I don't know, marry you and build a life with you if I sat in a carpeted room on a cloth couch
with cats.
With cats. I don't think anyone knows this, but I'm extremely allergic to cats. Close my throat off, my eyes swell up in a balloon. It's awful. It's disgusting. So,
but you remember that sitting there, and I haven't thought about that in forever. I'm pretty sure we have those journals somewhere.
That would be cool to see.
But I think that's kind of one of the main principles of who we are as people and in our marriage and our life is, even though there's setbacks, failures, you take breaks from having your foot on the gas pedal with certain parts of your development, we always come back to the whiteboard or the notebook. or the whatever. It's like this very human, undying, like, man, I'm in the dirt again, but you get up again. And so for both of us, it's like we've had setbacks, we've had really hard things happen in our life where you could have just like thrown in the towel, or maybe even have, and then you're like, okay, open up the notebook, say, okay, here I go again. And I feel like that's one of our biggest characterizations of us as people, is to endure and to have hope.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
We endure.
We endure. One of our other things that we've talked about and like written down is that we're truthful, which is a very hard thing. But Jimmy and I have both had points in our lives where we like made the commitment to ourselves to tell the truth, which sounds so simple. And then as you get further into your adulthood, you start to realize, oh, it's actually difficult to tell the truth if you're not determined to do so. Yeah. It's super easy to scroll too long and have your friend say, are you almost here? And you say, yeah, I'm on my way, or I had to stop for gas. Like the little lies like that come through. And then when you have, conflicts with somebody, it becomes easier and easier to say a lie to ease the tension, or there's always a reason. But that's a big one for us, is that we tell the truth, we endure. I'm trying to think what else we've written. Being kind to other people is a big one, of like, how can we serve other people? And I guess, that's kind of the being Christians part, is is loving other people and serving other people. And definitely love as a action.
Like a verb.
As a verb, not a feeling. But like, how can I choose to be kind to other people and serve other people? And for us, that definitely looks a lot like hosting, I think, pretty often. And
we do that a lot.
Trying to like physically show up in people's lives and help them. And we also, this is kind of a weird one that I've been thinking about and passionate about recently, which is also being willing to ask for help. I think humans need to feel helpful. We need to feel helpful. And so like when you give your friends and family the opportunity to come over and help with a yard project or whatever it is, like they can say no. We always buy pizza and beer. But inviting people into your life and having that vulnerability and being like, hey, I need a hand is actually a big deal, because it makes them feel more comfortable when they need to help. And I think it genuinely gives you a sense of purpose in your life when you have friends and family who they need you. Like, that you're needed. And that kind of goes into part of at least my parenting technique, which is like children need to have a sense of accomplishment and like work. I'm not all the way into Montessori or anything like that, but they call the things that children do work, and it's play, it's blocks. But it's the idea of like honoring the effort that it actually takes them to stack blocks. There's a reason the pediatrician says, can they purposely put one block on top of the other? It matters. Their brains are doing really crazy things. It seems simple to us because it's one block on top of the other. But for them, it's work, and it's something that is really important. So giving them jobs, giving them dignity in what they do is such a huge part of their humanity, of not just saying, oh, it doesn't matter, I can just like push it to the side or interrupt my child. Like if James is doing something, I try not to interrupt him unless I obviously have to, but to notice you're a real person, you're concentrating, you're trying, this matters to you.
I didn't know that. So like I'm working the majority of the day, and so I don't see like what happens like while you're at home with James. So I didn't know that like there was a whole like mission with like, I thought playtime is playtime and it's his form of entertainment. I didn't know that you were like building his dignity. That's that. So I'm not trying to say this
if
like,
anybody
in a
else
rude way, but like
listening has been a stay-at-home parent, you're probably also laughing and rolling your eyes, because there's a level of like, yeah, we are playing, we are having a good time, but also it isn't just that. It's purposeful of right before he finally started walking, I intentionally put him barefoot outside because our backyard is a little less flat, because I thought, if his bare feet are on something super tactile and that changes, that challenge might help him to actually gain this skill with a little bit more confidence, and it worked. So yes, playtime is playtime, but it's also a strategic choice.
But playtime for me has always been like, Dad's been working, come home, turn on like crazy fun play, excitement, like we're doing like all this stuff, and it's not been like I'll use the word like granular. Like it's not granular, it's like broad strokes, like we're like, we got the blocks, we got the books, we got the this, like the all this. It's more of like broad strokes fun. But I actually didn't know that you were doing these like granular decisions to build up like who he is basically and his skills. That's really cool, and I'm glad I learned that.
Yeah.
So we need to land this plane. We need to drive it home. In the next 60 seconds, let's just cast it and put it out there. Where do you think we're going in the next like 4 or 5 years? Like, it can be a place, it can be a size, it can be a state of mind. Where do you think we're going? Like our family.
That's a very broad question to have 60 seconds to answer.
and go nuts. Paint a really good picture.
I think that if I could define what the next few years of our life is going to look like, I would call it refinement. We've tried a lot of things in the past years of being together. Of like, okay, does this work for our relationship? Does this work for our career goals? Does this work for XYZ? It's been a lot of casting nets and sowing seeds. And I think the next few years are a time of focus and kind of bringing things in. We've realized, what friend groups feed into us and we best feed into them. And so it's like, okay, these are the friends that we're really close with. These are the things that really take up our time. And especially with having one child and another child on the way, it's like our time is becoming more and more narrow. So we're making better and better choices with our time and realizing it's like, if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you don't make the time for it, the time will never appear. And so I think we're really refining like, okay, what in your business actually matters to you? And you've learned to say no. You've learned to raise your prices. You've learned to do so many things that have refined your vision as an entrepreneur. And I think having kids, that kind of narrows our vision of like, okay, what does our free time look like?
What free time?
Exactly, what free time?
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, we get out. We see friends pretty often. But I'd say a refinement of like, this is what we eat. This is how our free time is spent. This is what our weekends are spent doing. And so it's kind of we've had a lot of fun, and now we're focusing on bringing wealth to our family in a different way of like wealth of our time. Like we're not just binging things.
Yeah.
We're not just doing whatever whenever. We're like, okay, I want these areas of our life to be rich. I don't want to eat like crap on a Saturday and then feel awful the next day. I want to actually enjoy the things that we're doing, even if they're just little things. So our food, our time, our health, all that kind of stuff. We want it to be our friendships, like just bringing a richness to that, just boiling everything down into
a richness. Boil it into a richness.
A rich stew.
I love it. Okay, well, amazing. I think this has actually been a really, really good episode, and I'm really glad it's my first episode, not just because you're my wife, but I think it really helps anyone who comes on later. It actually like paints a picture of like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're talking about. We're boiling your life and the listeners' lives down to a richness so that they are impacted, they have a better life, they get to go out and be better for other people and leave humans better than they found them. So I love you. Thank you for being on my podcast. Thank you for being my first guest, and this is the Allens.
Thanks
signing
for having
off.
me.
See ya.